Hello everyone, I am Sahil from Code Help. Welcome back to another video. So I have this class student here, and in that class I have a member variable fees of type number, and we know that the access modifier for this class would be public, which is the default access modifier in TypeScript. So for this class I can create an instance by let stud1 equals to new student, and I can access the member variable using this new instance created by the dot notation as student1 dot fees. So we are able to do it as this is of type public, as we already know, and we also know the other access modifiers that we discussed in the previous video of type private and protected. Now there is one more access modifier. Let's say I want to keep this fees as read only, and I don't want it to be changed by any object. I just want this for the purpose of showcasing what is the fees amount. So I can make this member variable as read only. So the instance now would only be able to read it by student1 dot fees. So that would not give any error, as we can read it, and also we can log it to the console by console.log student1 dot fees. But you will not be able to assign any new values to it, and if we'll try to assign a new value student1 dot fees equals to something, let's say 10, it will give me an error that cannot assign to fees as it is a read-only property. So we can't do that. Now there is a catch to it, that if we cannot write a value, then how will we initialize this variable fees so that we could read it further? So for that we can do the initialization at the time of declaration. So let's say I want to initialize it by 1000, so let me do that, equals to 1000. Now it has been initialized with the value of 1000, and we can verify it on the console. So let me just open a terminal and write tsc index.ts hyphen w. So now it will be compiled to a JS file, and let me open my live server. Let's just check what the output we have on console. So we can see that 1000 value initialized is being printed on the console. So yeah, up till now it's fine. But every time we cannot just initialize the value for read-only property inside the class only. There should be a mechanism so that the user should be able to provide the value from his side. So there is one more place where we can initialize the value of a read-only member variable. So that is inside a constructor method. So only at two places we can provide. So one is at the time of declaration, and the another one is inside the constructor business logic. So let me create a constructor. So let me pass the argument as fees of type number, and inside the function body let me pass this dot fees equals to fees, so that the value provided by the user at the time of instance creation will be passed and fees will be initialized by that value. So as you can see below, we are getting an error at line number 17. So we'll have to remove the value from the declaration and pass it to the student constructor method. Now moving on, if you remember the shorthand syntax that we learned in the previous video, so we can apply it here as well. So for that I can remove the top declaration, and I can put the read-only access modifier in front of the argument list. So let me just remove the fees from the declaration. I'll just comment it out. Also, I'll just remove the business logic inside the constructor, and let me put the access modifier in the argument list. So that would work the same way as the previous syntax was working. So let's just check our output on the console. Let's go to the console, and I can see that 1000 is printed there. So just to verify, let me change the value to 2000, and let's go to the console again, and we can see here that the value is updated to 2000. So this is working fine. Now there is one more interesting question, that whether we can change the value of a read-only parameter using the setter method. So let's just try that. I have this setName method which will take the user input and will try to set the read-only property of the class. So on hovering we can see that it shows us the error. It cannot assign to fees as it is a read-only property. Now you must be thinking whether we are able to assign it using the instance of the class or not. So let's just try that. Let me try to assign a value to member variable fees using the instance stud1. So let's just do that. Stud1.fees equals to, let's say, 1200. So that is also giving us an error. As we can see on hovering, it also says that cannot assign to a read-only property. So let's just go through a quick recap. We can only set a read-only property at two places, which is either at the time of the declaration of the member variable, or at second place, which is inside the constructor business logic. We can initialize the value of a read-only member variable. But we cannot assign the value of a read-only member variable inside the setter method as we just saw, or using the instance of the class using the dot notation. We cannot initialize the value of a read-only property. So I hope this video has helped you. If it did, please like it, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you in the next lecture.